Today is December 1st, 2004. This is Dr. Jared Rowley speaking, and my patient's name is Jake Smith. As per authoritative requests, all sessions with Mr. Smith from this point
I know this can be a bit overwhelming, especially since you're just an intern, but I know you're going to be fine.
Now, Jake, before we get started, I'm going to briefly explain the circumstances behind your admittance here on tape, for the sake of documentation. Is that okay? Okay. Jake Smith was declared missing in 2003 during the Discovery Island incident. A year later, on July 23, 2004, he was found and taken into custody after displaying signs of delusions and paranoia. Now, Jake, can you tell me anything you recall from your time on Discovery Island? Maybe you'd like to start from the beginning and work your way from there, about your time as an intern? I know you said it was a blur, but maybe trying to talk about it will help you remember. Thank you, Jake. Now please, tell me about the cabin.
I think he called those things costumes, but, well, we aren't entirely sure what they are or what they're capable of. All we know is that they've been there for a while.
It's no real surprise that a lot of creepypasta fanworks out there take something childlike or innocent and try to, successfully or not, make something scary or creepy about it. But I want to give a quick thought experiment to the opposite happening. Imagine you're somebody's grandpa or grandpa and you're out looking in the toy aisle for a birthday gift. You know they like this Five Nights at Freddy's thing on all the kids' t-shirts, but never looked into it yourself. Must be a YouTube thing though, little Jimmy's on there a lot. So there you are, looking at the figures on the shelf, and you see tie-dye Springtrap. So colorful. And a little odd looking, but here it is next to the Pokemon in Minecraft, so it must be some nice fun cartoon. Let me give a quick update for some of you not in the know. This is tie-dye coloring on what can be generally described as the zombified remains of a serial child killer. Damn lazy coloring too. No wonder Funkos are going to the landfills by the truckload. Well, let's get back to the point. If you grew up with stuff like Freddy Krueger or Friday the 13th, you might notice what happened here. Similar to those series, things went from, "Oh God, how terrifying," to, "Oh God, that kill was awesome!" These days, if Freddy Krueger invades our dreams, we're probably going to ask for an autograph instead of scream and run away. Similarly, Five Nights at Freddy's started as, and still is, a horror series by Scott Cawthon, known for creepy killer animatronics, jump scares, and a deep amount of lore tangled up with the supernatural, murder, and robotics companies. I won't get into the lore, but I will say it went from being confined to the games themselves, either explaining or hinting at mysteries, into a multimedia franchise that in order to put together all the pieces, you need to go read a few comics, complete an activity book, and read the other 12 books. And in at least one instance, look at the website source code. I don't really blame Scott Cawthon for not slowing things down. He had a lot of misses before this hit, and some of the fans do enjoy solving the mysteries like that. And yes, I know the books aren't canon to the games, but that doesn't stop the deep lore hunters from trying to find clues in them anyway. I will say that if you're interested in a comprehensive take on the whole lore for Five Nights at Freddy's, I prefer Wendigoon's video about it. Now, why did I go into all that? Because it helps give an example of at least one way fans can get inspiration to do something. Feel like Five Nights at Freddy's isn't what it used to be, or think that you and some buddies can make some improvements on it? Those or other reasons lead to creating stuff like Five Nights at Treasure Island, and the sequel Oblitus Casa. They start from the same basics given in Five Nights at Freddy's. You hold up in a single room and use security cameras and other tricks to keep yourself from getting grabbed by the ghoulies. But from there, both games go in different directions to keep things interesting, scary, and more or less fun to play. To start with Five Nights at Treasure Island, this is actually based off a creepypasta series by Slimebeast, known as the Abandoned by Disney series. And honestly, I'm not sure what was more complicated, trying to solve the story for these games, or keep track of how many versions this game went through before it was released as it is now. The original concept and work came from Anart 1996, and to just make a long story short, after at least 5 other versions and at least 1 other owner, Radiance Team got the ball and took it across the finish line. Anart 1996 wound up having voice lines used in the game, and Radiance Team went out of their way to not just get his approval for the fangame, but also Slimebeast's approval as well. Class act there, guys. Glad to see just the attempt made, and happy it went through. Now, there are ties with the creepypasta, but I'll go over those later with the story analysis. For now, the setup is this. You are Jake from the Supernatural Studies Association, an intern under Greg and Lisa who send you to the abandoned Treasure Island at Disney's permission. Greg lets you know you're going to see moving costumes and don't break anything. But Lisa gives the important bit. The SSA and presumably Disney don't know what the creepy tunes are. They just know they aren't safe. Nice of them to send you here without telling you any of that first, but you'll find out soon this isn't the first time. Gameplay is like Five Nights at Freddy's. Check cameras to track the tunes, and use mechanics to keep them from getting you. Like the OG games, if you fail, you get a jump scare. I want to point out here that a lot of criticism Five Nights at Freddy's gets is that jump scares are cheap tricks in the horror genre, and I get what they mean with that.
I'm a phantom, listen to me, I didn't do it, how about this,
I'm a fan more of the kind of horror that when it's done, it still can keep you up at night worrying about it. A jump scare is sort of, boo, gotcha! And it's over, at least when done poorly. Some things will try to do stuff like the cat scare, where there's going to be something startling but otherwise safe that occurs, so you get yourself settled down, tension's relieved, you get a little more calm, and then they hit you with the actual scary stuff. Oh, I'm not planning anything or doing a joke or anything, I'm just saying. Spill my coffee. Five Nights at Freddy's, however, in general at least, uses darkness and oppressiveness to make a creepy setting for the jump scares, as well as making sure they're used as a sort of punishment for not doing things right in the games. You know when they'll happen because you'll either see the baddies coming or realize you messed something up. That combination is used by Five Nights at Treasure Island and Oblitus Casa, and in my opinion they did improve on it. Instead of animatronic mascots that would look normal in the daylight, they gave us monsters that would be freaky no matter where and when you see them. First you get photo-negative Mickey, pretty much the mascot of the creepypasta in the game. You get rid of him by turning off a camera, which is the same tactic for later tunes known as Oswald, Disembodied, and Impurity. They have no eyes, so they go where the noise is, and I'm not sure why the camera sounds like someone crying out when you turn them off. Maybe it's an odd electrical short that crosses it with some PA character voice system. Maybe it's a supernatural thing, or maybe it's something rigged up by the team considering their prior knowledge. At first I thought you did this to keep them from getting to the office at all, but it turns out the game requires the tunes to be in the room with you when you do these things, which makes it a little more tense. 2 others, known as Acephalus and Undying, we'll come back to that second one by the way, are only tricked by staying still since they both are drawn to vibrations. And as the only one with eyes, the face only leaves you alone if you turn out the lights. The difficulty of the game comes from trying to keep track of everyone on the cameras while the generator's energy runs low, with the nice touch of the lights constantly flickering lower and lower as time passes. Run out of power and it's all over, though you can get extremely lucky if you're close enough to morning. This got to the point I began ignoring the cameras completely and just waiting in the room to react. But on the final night, that kind of complacency was probably a trap. Things weren't that easy when these three got in the room at once, though. You can cut the lights whenever you want to save on energy, but leaving them off for too long at once prevents you from turning them back on. Overall, I had a good handle on things until the final boss, Hourglass. You have to react to him based on what toon's starting position he comes from, since he's a merging of all the toons into one being. A lot of my troubles with him were tied to the power limit being so strict that I think it's intended to cut the power in the starting moments of the final night with Hourglass. I had a lot of thoughts about the difficulty of this final night, how much was luck, intentional or accidental difficulty, but in the end I settled on the idea that this may be what fans of Five Nights at Freddy's are used to in terms of difficulty. And like I said there earlier, things were manageable up until Hourglass, so ramping up the difficulty can't really be held against it. In any case, I was able to finish it, and even gave the challenge nights and nightmare mode a try. A couple times in the game you'll also explore pirate caverns to try and find a missing member of the team, but who that is and how the story goes we'll come back to later. Despite how much the difficulty of that last level made me want to pull out my hair, it was a fun game and did a good job in the horror department. I especially liked the designs of the toons and having a bit of variety on how to deal with them. And hearing their voices in the darkness as well as the strange sounds really got my attention and sucked me in. My only real complaint about the game is the ending being a bit confusing, but we'll get into that when we tie it into the sequel game, Oblitus Casa. Oblitus Casa takes place a year later, and I hope I'm saying that right. Jake escaped whatever went on at Treasure Island, but the others are all dead, and he wants answers. So setting up at a cabin on the island, he settles in for one last round with whatever is out there. This one is definitely an improvement on the previous game. Mostly at least, but we'll get to that. Improved creepy settings, much different ways of handling the toons, and especially unsettling designs for them as well. This time the cameras do lure them around, and you don't want them in the room with you. Willie is lured by playing music from the cameras, but only if he's close enough to hear them. Belial shows up as a drawing on your notepad, so you have to constantly erase her, or she makes a hell of a racket and makes the enemies move faster. Though they can still be held off, your ears aren't going to like it. Daisy will cause camera malfunctions if you don't hit her with the flash fast enough, and if she gets in the office, you'll have to deal with more noises again, with no working cameras. The Face returns from the first game, and is one of the toons that actually creeps me out the most. If you hear noises in the attic, get up there and chase them off with a lighter. But if you see Pete up there instead, get out because he doesn't like the light. Photonegative Minnie is another one you have to chase off with a camera flash, but instead of disappearing, she'll just go one room over. And then there's Dippy. He believes that if one door closes, there's a window, so keep him away from the porch. It's all actually very fun and engaging gameplay, and doesn't stop feeling unsettling or threatening with the setting and the baddies. However, that's just the cabin. There's 2 other places to handle as well. First up is Postmortem, a kind of haunted purgatory for if and when you get caught in the cabin. You're sent here automatically at the end of the first night as well, so you can know what the deal is with it. Find 3 Mickey heads in the cameras while fending off shades of the toons, and you get to go back to the cabin where you left off so you can have another chance to finish the night. Fail again, and it's game over. And some of you might not like to hear this, but this is where I actually had major trouble with the game. Some of it might be my fault though, I'll get into that. See, while the rest of the game makes it clear what to do and ease you into things, with 1 or 2 at a time, this one throws all the enemies at once with only vague explanations about what to do. After screwing up twice with this part, I actually went online to get clear directions, and at the time of this video I still haven't gotten the hang of it. Honestly, I think this place is supposed to be incredibly hard to deal with on purpose, considering it gives you one last chance to beat the night, and it really wants you to earn that chance. Or maybe I was just in such a rush to find the Mickey heads, I never actually fully tried to get things right in post-mortem. I was only in this place once after the first night, after all, so I didn't get much practice. That said, I do love how terrifying this place looks, and that scariness of it probably influenced me wanting to get over with it really fast and never look back. If you want to know how they handle the shades in here, here's the plan. Stab the voodoo doll whenever Mickey or Oswald is in the room with you. Scare off Goofy with one of the lights when he's in an entrance, and flip up the monitor when Minnie is in there with you. Don't click any Mickey heads that have a distortion to them, or Donald will pay you a visit. And finally, work fast, because the final shade in there is going to not be stopped by anything, giving you a sort of time limit. And if you stab the doll when you're not supposed to, she speeds up. Do this correctly, and you go back to the cabin where you left off for one more chance. I like the idea of it, and it's probably not as hard as I think it is. I just didn't have many opportunities in normal gameplay to try it out. That last level against Hourglass in a previous game made me very reactive. Speaking of other locations and Hourglass though, he's back again too. This time with a gas mask that's just as real as it is creepy. Yes, this was a real thing Walt Disney wanted people at the park to wear in case there was a need for them in World War II, and this is also something central to one of the stories by Slimebeast, but I'll let you go read that yourself. Also, yeah, let's make things creepier by having a ventriloquist dummy model this stupid thing. Kids won't need sugar to stay up all night after seeing that. Anyway, after each night is over, you head into the tunnels under the island, presumably searching for clues and such while the toons are hiding from the sun. Unfortunately, Hourglass, as mentioned, is down here too, and you have to be ready to run away from him as you search for the exits. You use the lighter to look around and see where the hallways are. If Hourglass gets lit up, he'll either run away or give you a short moment to run before attacking. How do you know which way to go? When the lighter is off, there will be a faint bell ringing if you're going the right way so far. You'll only hear it as you get closer though, and there's plenty more noises that risk drowning it out if you aren't listening carefully. Figuring out which way to go in this maze, and keeping in that direction while dealing with the threat of Hourglass, is actually pretty scary. Especially with balancing how much time to take listening for the bell and trying to keep moving. Although I do wish there were better or stronger indications about which directions are the right way. Which makes the fact that there's a strategy to completely cheese this section either a shame, intentional, or both. I won't say what it is, but the wiki is pretty blatant about it. Point being, I doubt the dev team didn't know about it, and either they ran out of time to get rid of it, or they just left it in so that people can have an easier time. Overall, even taking consideration of coming off the final night in the last game, Oblitus Casa feels a bit easier, or at least things are more manageable, even when it does feel like there's a lot more going on. That said, we have a final boss in this game as well. When you finally defeat Hourglass in the tunnels after night 4, an entity named Mother gets really mad at you and decides to come at you herself. She actually has two forms at once. First is a kind of dark shadow figure that shows up in the cameras and the notepad. Deal with those as you would the other toons that did that. And a more physical form known as Mick. And yes, the Mickey looks creepy, but not like much, right? Well, he has a much more frightening form after you get halfway through the night. If you see the eyes, flash it. Otherwise, lure it around the rooms with music. Meanwhile, the face is still up in the attic, since Mother can't control it, and has a new trick where he'll move around. On the other hand, though, Mick can go up there sometimes, and if you go up while he's there, you instantly lose. And I do mean instantly. Night 5 doesn't give you the post-mortem challenge to get a second chance. When you get through this night, the main story is over. Jake apparently gives up on the whole mess and burns the cabin down as he gets out of Dodge. But I hinted that there was more going on between this game and the previous one, didn't I? Well, let's get into it. Here's what's happening and what might be happening. To begin with, Five Nights at Treasure Island ended with Mother locking Jake in a vault room that was deep inside Pirate Caverns, set up as an animation room with a bunch of the classic Disney stuff in it. You never found Henry. Or did you? Henry is actually a central component to the story in both games. He calls you on night 3 to say he's trapped in the Pirate Caverns, and he needs you to come help him. And on the final night, he gives you the code to the final room. Taken by itself, this game has a weird and unfulfilling ending. Though again, I'll say it's enjoyable to play. At first, I thought for some reason Mother wanted you to stay in there and draw more cartoons, but that doesn't mesh with everything else between the games and the stories they're inspired from. Then Oblitus Casa comes along and sets things right. Oblitus Casa was actually stated by the devs to have changed a lot from Five Nights at Treasure Island, with pretty much only the general story events as canon. As they put it, it's the same story but with different writing. And that might sound a little bit like nonsense, but later on it makes a lot of sense when things are revealed. The final true ending of the games gets revealed by beating the challenge nights, so you can unlock Nightmare and then True Nightmare. Unfortunately, I didn't give myself enough time to get through it all myself, to see it myself. So I had to look around to confirm things so that I could be able to fully explain it to you. If I can't be a pro gamer, I can at least be a pro researcher. And I didn't want to keep you guys waiting on this video. That said, I'm sure given time I can get this done myself and might do so in the future. For now though, the reward for beating the toughest challenge in the game is one last appearance by Henry, who helps tie everything up into a neat little bow. First off, Henry is, and almost always is, a spirit. And he pretty much says he was undying in the last game. And he says he was going after you for this reason.
I was angry at first. Angry about being lied to, about them putting me into that situation. I mean, they got me killed. Can you really blame me? And realizing that this had been happening over and over on a scope greater than anyone could ever comprehend. And I'm always the one who gets the worst of it.
But Henry realized that Jake was the only one that actually wanted to try to help him and get him out of the caverns. So he tried helping back. Henry is the one that kept writing the new notes in the notebook for each night in Oblitus Casa, telling you how to beat the tunes. But, wait, back up a bit. What was that over and over thing he said? Because Mother has the power to recreate reality, and she's been doing it to the SSA team many, many times to keep putting them through hell and kill them off. Getting locked in the vault, but somehow being free in this one? Well, Oblitus Casa is a new timeline of reality that Mother put together so that she can keep resetting things and screwing around with her victims. And with that information, it's time to see how some other mysteries come together. The only tunes that don't merge into Hourglass in the first game are The Face and Undying. As we see, Henry was undying. Meanwhile, Oblitus Casa has a profile for The Face that says he was smarter and more independent than the other tunes. That could show why he wasn't part of Hourglass either. He had enough self-awareness to not join into it. Remember that when Hourglass gets destroyed, Mother says he was her children. So in Oblitus Casa, he was still the merged form of the tunes from the first game. To me, this means that Mother either directly, or at least had a hand in, creating and controlling the tunes, including The Face. I'll come back to the wording on that in a bit, but for now my conclusion is that The Face wants to get at you as much as the others, but either never was in Mother's control, or broke free from it. Which might be why in the first game he was hiding in the Pirate Caverns with Undying before showing up in the main building. And even then, only moved through the vents from the rooftop to get to the office. He may have been trying to stay away from the other tunes, so he wouldn't merge into Hourglass with them, which for all we know may have actually happened with him in previous timelines or realities, and he wanted to avoid it. After all, he might retain some memories of things just as much as Mother does. Which brings us to Mother herself. If all that was spoilers for the games, we're going to get into the biggest spoiler for the Abandoned by Disney series that Slimebeast wrote, which is also one of the most intriguing and interesting twists I've had the pleasure of reading. There's a force of nature that allows people to create things if enough of them believe in it or focus on it, for good or bad. And keep in mind, like any good horror story, knowing this fact doesn't stop the events that occur in the stories from being creepy, scary, or unsettling. A short version, certain people got so collectively furious and hateful toward the Disney Corporation that the— Hey, like and subscribe! Gotcha. And of course you see now why people sometimes say jump scares are cheap tactics when used poorly. Anyway, the negative feelings focused on Disney wound up creating the malevolent forces that began doing things like stalking people as a photo-negative Mickey mascot costume. Or whatever junk corporate speak description Disney calls those things in real life. Though I guess that flippant cynicism illustrates what kind of feelings created the damn things. The games are fan creations based off the Slimebeast series. The world these games take place in can be presumed to be the same one those stories take place in. Which means the narrator of most of those stories, as revealed at the end of the final one, was making an effort to spread the truth about the creepy things going on. What if he was successful enough to get enough people thinking about not specific things, but just general ideas? Word of mouth, chain emails, things like that. Just having enough people talking to each other going, "Hey, you hear about that abandoned Disney place? A bunch of haunted killer toons running around doing stuff." Combine that with the people that have a hate-on for Disney, and there's reasons for that in the stories. And among the other creepy things that happen in the story, you get a new thing that's summoned. Mother. And she shows up at Treasure Island because, well, that's where people think the stuff is happening. You read the story, some of it's in a different place completely. And she in turn creates, or otherwise takes under her control, the other toons that are running around the island. Disney gives permission to the SSA to investigate the rumors of creepy crap going on, and Mother jumps at the chance to finally send her toon children to get their evil on with some actual humans, no matter who they are. And thus we not only have an explanation for why some of the things in Treasure Island are considered non-canon but still canon, because that game, every previous version of Treasure Island that I mentioned, the fan games, the revivals, the attempts to make spin-offs and other creations based off of this, they could all be other realities or timelines that Mother made before that final night in Oblitus Casa. Jake is alive, but has to deal with whatever investigations come about for his dead co-workers, including Henry, who presumably was able to finally pass on. Mother, Hourglass, and the Face are no more, but so is any evidence they existed to start with. As for us, we played 2 games that were fun, interesting, scary, and enjoyable. At least for me, but I think if you like the original Five Nights at Freddy's games, you'll love these fan games. Congratulations to Radiance Team for their work on these. I'll definitely keep coming back to them, either for the challenges, the custom nights, or trying to find the hidden Easter eggs I didn't talk about in this video. Keep up with the team on Twitter, and show some support however you can. They're still working on more things for the future, so keep an eye on them. Until then, thank you Broken Mirror for the video suggestion. I really enjoyed playing it. And thank you all for watching and supporting the channel.
is over for the most part anyway. I can't thank you enough, Jake. Truly. You might not even understand what you've accomplished ever. But just know, no matter what, that she won't haunt you or this island anymore. Years and years of things most can't even fathom. Monsters, haunted costumes, nightmarish cartoons, all those things. Finally over. Just like that. I think this is it, Jake. This is where you and Treasure Island finally part ways. This may seem weird, but I'm going to miss you. I really am. Goodbye. And thank you.